Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, Friday, July 11th, 2025. Today is 7-Eleven Day. And on today's tropical weather outlook, we're going to be talking about some signals that are now emerging for potential development in the Gulf. And I've hinted at this over the past several days, but at least some models have kind of latched on to the idea a little bit more that within the next few weeks we might have to watch the Gulf for development of potentially some sort of frontal cutoff low making its way into the Gulf. And I'll show you the conditions, especially the sea surface temperatures. Things are definitely warm enough for development, and probably if something does try to develop, I wouldn't be surprised if it's successful in doing so. I'll show you all the models and all the conditions across the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. And in general, we're just going to go over, as obvious, things that are going on in the tropics currently, which, if we start off with the National Hurricane Center homepage, nothing much right now, at least in the Atlantic. For the next 7 days, there is not much development expected in the Atlantic, although as judging by the thumbnail, you could probably imagine that will change very soon here, probably within the next several days. But for now, nothing on the National Hurricane Center homepage in the Atlantic. And in the Eastern Pacific as well, nothing expected over the next 7 days. The Eastern Pacific kind of entering a slumber right now, as I've been saying they would over the past several days. A few days ago, the models had some development occurring in the Pacific. We also had some invests as well, but they failed to develop. And at least as of right now, nothing significant is appearing on the models in the Eastern Pacific, so they're also going to be quiet for the foreseeable future as well. Here's a satellite image of the Atlantic, and there's nothing of note to talk about just yet. There is this front that's coming off the East Coast, and you can see that there is shower and thunderstorm activity in the northern Bahamas and off the southeast coast, and also some showers and thunderstorm activity over Florida and also into the deep south as well. You can see quite a bit of showers and thunderstorms appearing over portions of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi right now. And also, as we extend out here into the deep tropics, not much. I mean, we have a thick layer of Saharan air, as we typically would for this time of year in July. But just off the coast of Africa here, just south of the Cabo Verde Islands, quite an impressive tropical wave. And this has actually gotten quite a bit of attention on hurricane tracking Twitter. Especially over the last day or so, was definitely a very impressive wave last night as it was coming off the coast of Africa, and it still looks quite impressive today, but obviously it probably will not develop because conditions are way too harsh. Although, and I did see somebody say this, I forgot who, somebody said that if this was last year or even 2023, this wave probably would have developed. But obviously, this year is not last year or 2023, and conditions are definitely not as favorable right now in the deep tropics. But it is certainly a very interesting looking wave for sure. And it even shows up pretty well on the 850 millibar vorticity signature. Look at that. Very impressive and aggressive vorticity signature here, just south of the Cabo Verde Islands. And I guess if this was maybe just a few weeks later, or maybe if this was last year, where we had much warmer sea surface temperature anomalies and the general atmosphere was much more favorable in the Atlantic for the most part, this probably would have developed, but obviously it is not going to develop right now. Conditions are not favorable, at least for the foreseeable future, but as I mentioned over the past several days, that too might be changing over the next several weeks as we head into the month of July. But as of right now, and let me actually zoom in on this a little bit, this is the velocity potential map, at least for July 9th. This is from the Climate Prediction Center, and this is just generally taking a look at where the velocity potential is in the globe right now. And you see we have a bunch of browns in the western hemisphere over the Atlantic that represents sinking motion in the atmosphere, which is not favorable for development and just generally not favorable for convective activity at all. So that tropical wave that we have coming off Africa here is probably going to die out over the next several days and probably will not be much of any major discussion for development, at least. Although, you never know, maybe could try to sneak up on us down the line, as that's definitely happened before. But at least for now, just kind of setting the stage that things are not yet favorable, especially for eastern tropical Atlantic activity. At least that remains the case for now. Sea surface temperature anomalies, though, and we're going to start taking a look at the future. And I mean, at least sea surface temperature anomaly wise in the eastern Atlantic, things are very warm. But especially look here in the Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast coast, and that's really where the focus has been so far this season. That's kind of where we typically look at anyways this time of year. It's very, very warm, especially here in the Gulf of Mexico, sea surface temperature anomalies, anywhere as much as one, even spots of 2 degrees Celsius above normal in the northern Gulf. And how does that translate in actual sea surface temperatures? Because I showed you the anomalies, but here are the actual sea surface temperature readings in the ocean. And we have widespread areas in the Gulf, anywhere from 29, 30, even have some 31s being detected here just off the southeast coast of Louisiana. And even 30s and even 29 degrees Celsius, that is more than capable or more than enough for tropical development. I mean, the threshold is 26 degrees Celsius, and we are definitely well above that throughout the entire Gulf of Mexico, except this very interesting slither here just off the coast of the Yucatan, the northern coast of the Yucatan. But there's nothing in terms of development that we're watching there. It's mainly the northern Gulf, and sea surface temperature wise, it is definitely more than warm enough, and definitely more than ready for something to come in here and try to develop. And the Gulf of Mexico will always be warm enough, especially as we head into the months of August and September. It'll always be more than warm enough for not just tropical development, but even for major hurricane intensification. And we certainly see that right now. And how is that going to play a role here over the next week? I'm going to show you the GFS, at least as of the 12Z run, and you see with this frontal energy that we have off the southeast coast right now, because we have a front that is coming off, as I just showed you on the satellite. Eventually, the front here kind of hangs around, and then as it goes, typically with these kind of systems, we have a low pressure that tries to break off the southern end of the front, and then that low pressure here on the GFS makes its way over Florida. So probably as we head into early next week, there will be some rainy and thunderstorm conditions for Florida once again. And then eventually, notice as the Bermuda High here builds back to the west, we have a low pressure here in the Gulf of Mexico. And this is what I've been talking about over the last several days, that was going to happen. And on this run of the GFS, not very enthusiastic for development. A few runs before were very enthusiastic. I think even a run had a pretty strong tropical storm or something like that heading into the northern Gulf coast. But the energy is there, and there's definitely some sort of signal that you see here, and this is as we head into late next week on the GFS model. And as I said before, the Gulf of Mexico is more than warm enough for development, and climatologically speaking, this is where we tend to look at for development this time of year. It's always in the Gulf of Mexico or off the southeast coast, especially with these kind of setups like we have with this, where we have a low pressure that breaks off the southern end of a front that's coming off the east coast and tries to develop. And this is what I showed you on the title card. This is the GEFS, so the ensemble members of the GFS. And on the 12Z run of the ensembles, Look at that. Quite a few ensembles here. In fact, we even have a few strong ones. There's one here that's 995 millibars. And then you see that as we head towards late next week. This is roughly 5 to 6 days out. Kind of dilly-dallies here in the northern Gulf, and then eventually has about a day or two over water and then moves inland over the central northern Gulf Coast as we head into the end of next week. Roughly this time next week around Friday, and then it moves on into the United States. But the signal is there. There's definitely quite a few ensembles, at least on the GEFS. So that is important because not only do you want to look at the operational model, like the regular GFS, and obviously that maybe not be as aggressive for now, but it is especially interesting when you have the ensembles to back it up. And I'd say here, especially in the Gulf, this signal here, pretty interesting signal, and definitely a significant one enough that you would want to pay attention to. And really quickly, let's take a look at the European ensembles, because let's take a look at multiple models so we can get multiple opinions. Just take it for yourself. If you have some sort of condition that you have with your body, you would want to get multiple opinions from multiple doctors to confirm whether or not you have something that is significant. And same thing with this. We're talking about potential development of a tropical system, and for clarity and to be sure that the potential is there, we would want to look at multiple models. So here's the European ensembles, and at least for the 0Z, kind of going out through the next 10 days, because this full model run is 10 days. You can see there's not really much enthusiasm for something to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. And I should actually point out that the European has actually been quite spot on, especially with Chantal, and it was the most aggressive model, especially compared to the GFF with showing Chantal forming off the southeast coast about a week ago. And even with Barry, taking it back to the end of last month, they also were pretty aggressive in showing that, and it ended up being right. And they don't show development here in the Gulf. So lots of uncertainty for right now, but the signals are there, and they are definitely not just some random BS signals, which is why I'm bringing it up. And of course, it's July, it's hurricane season, and of course, we've had a lot of instances of pretty significant weather across the United States over the last several days. And obviously, when we're talking about tropical development, that is a significant weather event in and of itself. So we want to keep on top of it. We'll monitor over the next several days to see how these model runs progress. Do they become more enthused of potential development in the Gulf, or they become less enthused? We'll see. But for now, we're going to keep it at the signs are there, and we're going to have to watch very closely over the next several days. As always, luck favors the prepared, so please keep an eye out here over the next several days to see how this progresses. With that being said, not much else to go over for today, so I'm going to end it off here. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. As always, I'll be back with more tomorrow.